Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and gonna be talking about. I'm gonna be just talking about the Lion King live action here a little bit. That's what this video is gonna be focused on. And I wanted to say right now, to talk about my little thoughts on it and some of my goods and other stuff in this film. I just want to say right now, this film is not a bad and or terrible film. It is an okay film. It is not a great film. And it's not as bad as people online are making it out to be. It's not. There are a couple changes that they did, but most of the changes they did were because of live action capabilities, because it's more realistic. It's more realistic, type effect they're going for. They're not going for cartoony type effects, and because of that, there's some things that they had to change, but they didn't change things too differently to where the plot doesn't get to where it's supposed to get to by the end of the movie. And that's the biggest concern when it comes to any movie. So in terms of that, there's nothing wrong with this movie. It's definitely a movie that I'm sure, take your kids to see or whatever. Definitely an enjoyable movie. My biggest gripe with this movie is the music for the most part. I felt the music was not genuine. I Can't Wait to Be King was very, 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 very flat. It was very flat. It didn't feel as in, what's the word I'm looking for? I Can't Wait to Be King didn't feel like, in this movie, it didn't feel like as excited. Didn't feel like it had any energy going for it like the original movie had. And I don't know if there's comparison videos out there for you guys to compare it to, but when I heard it, it felt very, very monotone, very low key, and I did not like about that because the original was much more energetic. I get that they couldn't obviously do the ending part of the song where you have all the animals tower up on each other and then fall down at the end. But getting rid of that or not trying to do something similar to that, I felt also really hurt the song, because it was like, it just kind of ends. Like, there's no kabam, at the ending of the song. It's just like, whatever. They just walk along with all the animals. The bird is getting, attacked by other birds, and then they just move on, with it. It just felt very, very, very flat. And most of the songs were flat. Akuna Matata was pretty good on how they did it, but most of the songs were, whatever. The opening song was good too. Like that, Akuna Matata and the opening song were probably the best ones in this live action movie. All the other songs, for the most part, felt very flat, and they kind of felt forced. They didn't feel like, it was like, let's do this and move on to the next scene. That's what it kind of felt like. It didn't feel genuine enough for me on how I depicted it. So in this movie, obviously the hyenas were more smarter. I guess, again, a realistic effect that really doesn't really concern me. They did change their names, which I don't feel like they needed to really change their names. I guess they did it because they wanted it to be more, from where they're at. But my take on that is, it's like, they've been like that for a while now, so why change it now? But again, that's just, little small stuff there. Again, they were trying to go for more of a realistic aspect of the jungle, of the kingdom, of what animals would be doing. But my take on that is, they're talking. So I mean, there's really it really is not necessary. But I don't think that's a really bad thing. Just it's whatever. But it didn't affect the overall plot. They still got to where they needed to get to by the end of the movie, so it was fine. Most part, like I said, the movie pretty much, is very close to the original. Timon and Pumbaa, they're fine the way they are. There's nothing different about them. They're the same way. I know a lot of people are kind of wondering if the Pumbaa was going to be different or whatever. Nothing. It's pretty much the same. Pretty much as the same. Most of the characters. I mean, some of them they gave Nalu they gave her a little bit more, dialogue as an adult. They actually show her, leaving Prime Rock, and eventually meets up with Simba. But, it's whatever, that's fine, it adds to it, it takes away the shock value of Simba, seeing her, for the first time in years, but the way they were doing this movie, it felt like they were doing it where they expected you already to have seen the original in the first place. So it makes sense if you're, going to that audience, because I'm sure they expect most people that are seeing this movie have seen The Lion King already, the cartoon version. So it's fine. Overall, the cast was okay. Again, pretty much everyone in this movie for voice acting is not the same person except for Mufasa. But that's not really so much of a bad thing, because most of the voice actors that did the original voices might not be able to do that voice anymore. So, not everybody, but I'm sure there could have been some voice actors that could have come back besides Mufasa, but overall they were, they did the best they could to try and sound like the older voices. But like I said, plot ended basically the same way the original movie was, and it pretty much went... The main emphasis of the plot was pretty much what it should be. It went the way it did. They didn't try to change the story at the end. They didn't try to, do something different. They did specify a lot of the dialogue. There were a couple of things that they specified on, with the whole, confronting Scar about murdering Mufasa. They specified that. For example, when Simba, freed himself from about to being killed by Scar, and he confronted him about it, the other lions actually asked him, how would you have known about Mufasa's eyes before he died if you didn't murder him? They kind of specified, this is something that wasn't mentioned in the original cartoon version. So they kind of, were specifying more of the dialogue so people could kind of understand what was going on, and not just make you think, because Simba said he murdered him, it must be true, because that's basically what they did in the cartoon version, was like, you're a murderer, after he revealed in quiet voice, I killed Mufasa, and then when, Simba jumps, and attacks him, he's like, murderer, tell him the truth, obviously a real person isn't going to tell people the truth, you know what I'm saying, but here, they kind of have the other lions play detective, and they had that specific dialogue in there, is how would you have known about, Mufasa's eyes before he died? Like, so they did specify a lot of the dialogue so it could make more sense. They did this a lot in the Aladdin live action movie, so they did a little better in that. But again, overall, the movie is very flat in terms of the singing for the most part, and like I said, it just kind of rushes through it all, and it's just kind of weird. And again, the beginning sequence kind of disappointed me too, because even though the music for the opening thing was pretty good, the monkey who lifts Simba up, right? He was like kneeling. He was like kneeling down, like when he lifted him up, which to me I felt was not as impactful, because in the original cartoon movie, when he thrusts Simba up, he's standing on his 2 feet. He's not kneeling or anything. He's not having his knees bent. Like, he's thrusting Simba, and I felt that felt so strong. Like, this guy, he's gonna be the next king of king of the lions or whatever. King of Prime Rock. That felt very, very powerful. It felt very, very powerful. When they do it in this live action movie, it doesn't feel powerful because he's not standing up. He's kneeling. He has bent knees when he's lifting up Simba. It doesn't feel as powerful, and that's kind of some of the examples, in terms of this movie, where the movie just doesn't feel that strong. It feels like, we're just going to move past the next scene, we're going to get to the next scene, and we're going to get to the end of the game. Which they do that very well. They do the very well. They go, they cover everything about the plot, main objectives to get to where they need to do at the end, but at the same time, it feels very rushed and not genuine while they try to get there. And that's kind of why this movie, to me, is not a great movie. It is definitely an okay movie, and it is definitely an enjoyable movie, mostly for kids and stuff like this. This is a movie that definitely would be enjoyable for a kid. But someone who has grown up, that has seen the original, it's probably not going to be a movie that you're going to probably be interested in. Definitely enjoyable movie, like I said. I mean, some people are going to like, I'm sure a lot of people actually like this movie. But compared to the original, this movie has nothing compared to the original. The original was 100 times better than this movie. Again, the music is definitely the biggest issue in my personal opinion in this movie. I think the songs, for the most part, not every song, but like the iconic songs mostly that you expect to be better, and really didn't live up to it, except for maybe Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata, I thought, lived up to it in the opening one. And then I don't count, again, the Scar one, because the Scar with the hyenas one was altered a little bit. It was changed because, again, the hyenas aren't dumb in this movie. Because they, again, trying to make it more realistic. And so they don't make the hyenas dumb in this movie. So, again, a couple things changed. Zalu is not in the cage, too. That was something they changed as well, too. But, again, they're trying to make it more realistic, and that's why they do it that way. And that wouldn't be as realistic. They'd try to eat the bird, which does make more realistic sense. Since that's what kind of these animals do, is they eat each other, but again, that's just my thoughts on this movie. Okay movie, not a great movie. There's nothing bad about this movie. There's no political agendas in this movie. The people that are, trying to bash this movie for political bullcrap are full of shit. This movie is not one of them. If that's what you're thinking this movie is, it's not true at all. That's not what this movie is at all. It's an okay, fine movie. It just feels a little bit rushed to get to where they need to do with the plot. Again, a couple things were altered because they wanted to make it less cartoony and more realistic because it's live action. And that's really the only real alterational changes that they did. But again, the overall main plot here is the way it was in the original. Simba, spoiler, though not really a spoiler if you watch the original cartoon, becomes king at the end. And he has a daughter, and they lift her up at the end, and that's how Lion King ends the same way it ended in the original cartoon. So no issues whatsoever in terms of this movie. Overall, I'd probably give this movie 6 out of 10. Like I said, most of the issues for me were the singing issues and the rushing and other stuff. But overall, an enjoyable movie nonetheless. And it's not a movie I'd personally, my personal first choice to go see, but if you're really a huge fan of Lion King, I'd go see it. But it's not better than the cartoon version, and I personally would rather you just go watch the cartoon movie again. I'm very curious if they're going to end up doing Lion King 2 now as a live-action movie. Now, I don't know, at this point. You just gotta, retell all the sequels too, why don't you? So yeah, that's about it, guys. I'm out. I'm the SS Ultimate Goku. Comment, rate, flex for my video, and my videos, please subscribe. And I'm the SS Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace.